And then I will share with you 4 projects. I will just say that maybe they are too much for tonight, but I will do my best to go quickly into this project, and then at the end of this project presentation, we can have a bit discussion. So first, well, Mecanoo, I'm assuming that you know Mecanoo for all the projects around the world. We are based in Delft, the Netherlands. It's a small town. Probably you know Delft because of the university. Can you see my mouse?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
all right.
So this is the University of Delft. We designed at campus the library. Probably you know this one. It's very famous. And then some years later, the park, which is almost 1 kilometer long. I think what's nice to say about the campus is that when I was studying here at U Delft, this space in the middle was just a parking space. And then later, the university, the TU Delft, they decide to connect these two sides in one space, and they ask Mecanoo to design that space, and which we solve by introducing a park, which is a kind of meeting point. So you can imagine people study on this side of the campus, they can meet together in this area for people that study on the other side. So it's a meeting point. It's a place where they can organize activities. It's also a nice walk side along all these spaces. Um, just to give you a bit impression of our office, I've here a short video to get the atmosphere. As you see, it's an old building, so we are all in this building. I think at the moment we are 125 people, and they are on different spaces. So it starts with the ground floor, it's first floor, and it's also the attic. We have also beautiful garden. So just to give you an impression of. This is the main entrance. We have a big, large meeting room where we host clients, important clients, have meetings, workshops, and we work all together. So there are different disciplines and depend of the project. So we move continually in the office. So we don't have a fixed place, but sometimes we move from one level to another level because we have to put together the team and with the different disciplines. So, well, actually, we work along the world. We have 25 nationality in the office with different disciplines. And I think this is what make Mecanoo strong, is that because all these disciplines together, when we get a project in or when we have to participate on a competition, we have always the possibility to put together the right people with the right experience that they can also react to the request of the client. What you see, I like to show to you these photos is because you see, these are all my colleagues, and actually we make photos of each one. And the question was, could you please come to the office and show your hobby? What you like to do, not just what you do at work, but what you do home. And why this? Because we believe that your hobby, your passion, it's represent also your quality, your skill, your talents. And then we would like also to combine your passion with the project that we do every day. So What you see here is this is me here in the middle. I'm sketching on books, and I like books, and this is also the reason why also I've been working on a lot of libraries around the world. So because it's one of my passion. Um, Something more about myself. I'm an associate architect. I'm come from Italy. I almost live in the Netherlands more than 20 years, and I work Mecanoo almost more than 15 years. So I have been working on a lot of projects, Mecanoo office, public buildings, urban uh, planned areas, interior design. So I like to switch from large scale to a small scale. Philosophy about Meccano, it's related to is based on 3 points: so people, place, purpose. People's because for us it's important to understand um, where people come from when you start a project, what they do in that area, what is the need of that people. So the people is central for our project, and we also believe that when you make the design, the architecture is not because you like that kind of architecture or that kind of materials, but it's because these materials of that shape or form will give something back to the people that later will use that space. So people is central in our philosophy. A place, we believe that every place or each place, it has an own identity. And sometimes what we discover when, especially when we work in another countries, is that we see things that people don't see living there, because they are using the space every day, and they don't see anymore the quality of that space. And when you come from outside, I think that's the quality. It's that when you move from one place to another place and you go for the first time there, then you start to see things that could be used or integrate in the project. So and that make unique. And then purpose. So we always work in a way that the building of or the solution that you put on the paper, and then later when you realize, when you build, try to give an answer to a different institution, to different groups. So what you do is not just for one client, but it's also for a group of people, group of institution that they have to adopt that building or that space. So that's the reason why when you look our website or presentation, you see that all the buildings are completely different from each other. So each building, there's a story beyond it. And on each building, you see some identities, solution that are different, but the philosophy is one. So sometimes it's more related to the details. For example, this is a building in Boston. It's a municipality building where the client asked us to show more, to work more with the bricks. And then from the bricks, we create these beautiful details that start to react with these shapes and with the light and the shadow, and at the same time try to um, make a unique identity. Another example is the Kaohsiung National Theater. I went to visit last time. This building was 2 years ago, and what you see here, it's there are four theater of performance space covered by one roof, and in between there's an open space. And the idea was inspired by this um, trees. It's a typical in Taiwan. And when you look these trees, I think what's important to see is that these trees, they create a shadow. And Taiwan, it's a tropical environment, and so the shadow and the natural ventilation play an important role. So this is the situation now in this building. So the building is located in a park, and what is nice to see is that the people, when walking in the park, they can also cross the building. And when you compare a theater in a traditional way, a theater, people go to the theater because there's a performance. You buy the ticket, and you dress nice, and then you go to the theater inside. And it's just because you have a ticket and you can access the theater. In this way, what I found quite nice and different from the traditional theater is that you can almost be in the theater. You are along the foyer or the public entrance, and because there's this space in between open, and you can also use for this kind of performance, which are for free. So you have a door where you can go inside, and then you are sitting in the theater in enclosed space, but you can also pass by, and then you have the possibility to watch a movie and experience this situation. So this is when it's full of people. This is an office building. It's a bank, and this is one of the space inside of the building. And every time that we show this building to the clients, we ask, what do you think that this space is? And most of people say, well, it looks like a lecture room, or looks like an educational area. And but on the end we say, well, actually this is not a lecture room. This is an office space. And why I'm telling you this is because this is what we see in the last years. Building with a function like an office, they are try to be multifunctional. They try to adapt their function space to other activities. And I remember when we started to design this building, the client came with a question or with a brief that to provide kind of event space with a flat floor. And then we said, well, what if you introduce steps? And by introduce steps, you create more kind of uh, almost a kind of lecture room, but at the same time, maybe there's a space enough where people can sit and meet together and have a lunch here or have a talk, informal talk. So they accept this idea, and this is the result. And what we saw later is that people that usually was working in a normal office, in an enclosed room, they start to move to this space because they feel more connect with our colleagues, and then they start to be also more productive. So that was a big change for the culture of this bank, because moving from an enclosed space um, with some privacy to an open space was completely different way to work. So actually what we see more and more is this moving from a single program to a multifunctional program. So clients sometimes doesn't know very well what they want. And also they don't know the future very well. And this is because this is a research that we did in the office some years ago about the future of learning. It's because we think that this becomes from three aspects that are connect on each other. One is that start from the society, and society it's come always a question. The society will want to challenge some questions also, And next to the society, we have the technology. And we know that technology go very fast. So what's happening is that society try to follow technology, and at the same time, then we have to create an environment. And this is the role of the architect. So the architect needs to understand then which kind of space this society needs to in order to accommodate also the technology, and at the same time prepare the building for the future. So we also, if you look at the past, we also notice that there is a big change in moving, first with Word, then with the print, and now with the internet. So the information go quickly, and because it go quickly, so a lot of organization, institution, they want to be prepared for the future. And because they want to be prepared for the future, they want to make sure that what they design now, what they provide now, they can also be used for maybe 5 years or 10 years. This is something that we also see, especially in public buildings, but also in educational sector, where technology is more close to the students. Probably something that you also experience in your school. And also the role of the teacher. It's in the past, the teacher was the one that um, was in front of the class with an answer to the problems. And now we see that the role of the teacher is more related to, yeah, it's a kind of coach. It's next to the students. Sometimes the students know more because they are so very well connected with digital world that they get information quickly, uh, and they know already the changes. So actually what I'm trying to say is that this is what I experience every day in my work, is that we are constantly move from a monofunctional to a multifunctional aspect, and where on the base it's the learning uh, factor. It's important. So, and how you can achieve this? So this is, if you look the educational sector, when you look also the library, it's the same situation. You move from a passive library to an active. Uh, Library are not anymore about books. Books you can find in the library, but libraries, they tend to open the door more for activities. By have activities, you have more people in the building, and they start also to use the building. So as I said before in the beginning, I would like to introduce one of the first projects. It's the Library for Birmingham. Probably you know very well this building. It's very close to your place. Um, the Library for Birmingham is the largest public library in Europe. So I started to work on this project from the beginning, from the acquisition until the end. And I remember very well that this was about 1 million books. Can you imagine? 1 million books. It's something that sounds huge, sounds a lot. And we had to design a building. And to be honest, I think this is something that I really like to show you. This is the first moment that we met client. So they call us, they say, well, you have been selected because you have to do a acquisition. So you go there, you do a presentation. I think there were another 4 office, they were also invited. And then after this presentation, they select one. And we were the winner. And the first meeting with the client, it was this moment. So you can imagine, so you start a meeting, you have to design the large public library in Europe. It was about 35,000 square meters. And this is, it's about the books and the stories. And then you have to do this. And for me, it's fascinating the process, to share with you the process between the moment that you meet for the first time the client, and then the moment that you see this, realize and say, wow, this is this is the result of this. I think what is important to tell you here is that the stories are important. So the moment that you meet the client, he will tell you a story, and you have to listen to that story, because with that story you start to understand better why you are looking at that book there, and why you have to provide a building for that book. Um, the first things that we do every time is observing. I told you in the beginning, people are first place. So understanding people, which kind of people they are living in Birmingham, where they come from, why they are in Birmingham. So you are provide a public building, so it's important also to understand what they're doing. Also observing the current space of the library. It was the old library, so why they are sitting there. And for some people, I discovered that in that time, for some people, maybe still like this now, go to the library was very important. It was the place where they could communicate with the family, where they can write maybe a brief or their CV. So library was a reference point for these people. At the same time, also work with the client, understanding other buildings, other reference was also important for us in order to um, um, become more close to the client. I think this is also important. That you as a student, later you will discover it's important to be very close to the client, and you have to be a friend. Sometimes you have also be critical, because clients, they receive information, or they get information for what they know already, and but you are the one that can help to understand if that information are still value for what you have to do, or maybe are too old to update, or they need to be refresh, and maybe you can change. um, Something that came up during the process was three um, starting point, and this was also be the base of the design of the Library of Birmingham. So one question was also to the client, um, about the behavior of the people. Um, and the behavior, it means that it helps you to understand if that space of that building, especially if it's a public building, is designed for you as user or for the client. And so the question was, can people, if go in the library, can people, for example, take a coffee somewhere in the cafe and then walk through the library? Yes or not? Can you eat a pizza, for example, between the books? Yes or not? And this is the question that make um, the client critical, because some clients, they react very negative. They say, no, you are not allowed. So people are not allowed to walk through the library because with a coffee or with some food, because otherwise it will destroy it or will become dirty. And some other, they say, no, it's their house. And that makes the difference, because then you start to design a space for people, and people, they can feel home. And this is the question, how they can feel home. The second was the physical space. I think when you design a space, you have to make sure, especially for a public space, that it's inspiring. That's the reason why you move from your house. You don't want to stay in your house, but you want to go in this space. Because every time that you go there, you get inspired, you get an idea, and then you go back, and then you start to think a different way. And the third one was also make sure that your building is prepared for the future, because you don't know the future, you don't know the evolution of some functions or activities. So you have to provide infrastructure in order to make sure that every time things can be adapted and changed without to destroy the building. Another thing that I also like to share with you, is that when I was making all this research, I discovered that um, the library, together with the museum and galleries, it's it's a building that hosts different groups, but also different ages. So you go to the library with your parents when you are a child, and then you end to go to the library when you are retired and maybe make some research or you meet people there or just read the newspaper. So it's a public building that um, um, has to be designed in a way that for all kind of a generation of groups can be accessible, and also um, all this group can feel home. So actually the graphic that you see here, it's we call this the learning landscape. So this is the stage of learning, horizontal, and the vertical, it's the type of institution. So you start as a child here, then you go to the school, college, university, and then this is in between. So quickly to the building. What you see here, this is a section of the Birmingham Library. Um, um, what I want to show you is that, for example, we designed a space underground, which was not in the brief. So the client was pushing us to put so much of possible um, public areas around the street level. And so it's like this scheme here. You see the public, and the green are all the public functions. And because of the limit of the site, we said, well, actually you can put indeed on ground floor, but it could be nice to use also the level below. And then we end up also to use a little bit under the square. And in order to put these functions on the ground, we also decide to open a part of the space on the ground with a patio, which we call Amphitheater. And we said, well, if you have a patio here, you can get daylight, natural ventilation, and maybe it's the right place to put the children and the music zone. So what is nice is that the children, they can also play outside in a safe environment and maybe combined with the music. And then, this happened when the library went open. And it's something that we have not um, designed like that. It was designed for to get light and to get natural ventilation and maybe to play with the children. But then it happened that people, when they saw this space, they said, wow, why we don't start to organize events? And I know that now it's this space is used very well for events, but this is I remember nice situation to see. It was just a spontaneous action where they moved the piano outside, and then you see this guy with this cold singing. I think he was singing the Italian's opera. Why not? And then you see back the building as a scene of this area. I think for me it was a great moment to see how people, how you can stimulate people. Right? It was, I said before, you have to stimulate with the space that you introduce in the architecture. Sometimes it's you design for something, but then people, they start to see other things where, yeah, it can happen also like this. This is the children area. Also here we designed these steps to tell stories to the children, but children, they like to go up and down. They enjoy the space. They play with the chairs. This is in the middle of the building. There are 3 levels full of balconies and books. We call this the book rotunda. And during the design process, we said, can you imagine this space? Maybe you can also use for events. Maybe it's to celebrate something special. Maybe it's the New Year event. Or maybe it's for a 1 week. It's a Birmingham Fashion Week. You can also put a catwalk and invite people there. Or maybe you can organize a concert along this balcony, and it happened. So again, it was just an idea in the design. So we like always to say, what if? And what if it's mean that, yeah, you push a bit yourself in another step, in another dimension, and it's try to inspire the clients. And sometimes can happen. And this is the core. So the archive, also a nice story about the archive, because actually in the beginning, we thought the best place to put an archive is on the ground, but the archive is, yeah, it's a complex space. But for the client, it was too emotional discussion, because the archive, it's the heritage of Birmingham, and they say, well, if we put this underground, people will not see our heritage. So then, after so many discussion and workshop, we decide to put the archive here on the top. So you see this gold box, which when people pass by, maybe they will never go inside because it's a protected area, but they can always say, well, this is our archive, this is our heritage, and they can be proud. And then on the top, we put this cylinder. It's representing the space of the Memorial Shakespeare Memorial Room. It's a room that was designed in an old library, and we demounted this piece by piece from the old library, and we moved to the new one. And so we decided to put on the top of the building, because well, then this will become a destination point, and it's a space where you can have important events. Maybe you can celebrate some wedding, or something special. But then on the internet, I discovered this. So why not? It's again the question, the behavior of people. Can people, um, are they allowed to sit like this in the Shakespeare Memorial Room? Yes, why not? It's their space, it's their building, and so again, you design for some purpose, and then at the end, people choose the space. Another aspect that we introduced when we designed the Library of Birmingham was the green area on the roof levels. Um, it was not in the brief, but when we start to shape the building, we said, well, actually, we have created this beautiful terrace, and can imagine if people, can take the books and then go outside, and from this space, you can meet people, you can read the books, you have a nice view. But can imagine if you make this green, maybe, yeah, you as first public building, you can give an example of all the other buildings around. And then can imagine if later all these buildings, they will start also to change the roof. Well, this happened, so we introduced this beautiful green green terrace, and some of this green are spice. So especially for the children, when they walk around, they can smell the different spice, and so it's also educational. So again, from a story, from a book, then you end up with a building like this, and a building where also it's not just used in the way how we design the building, but it's just it's for the people, and the people, they start to use in their own way. Library local, Tilburg, probably you saw this one. There was a lot of publication about this building, because it's one of the library in the Netherlands that got a lot of attention. It's a big change in the sector of the libraries and education. This is in a small city in the Netherlands. It's called Tilburg, and it's a building next to the Dutch railways, next to the train station, to say. And this building was built in 1932 in order to accommodate locomotive, so piece of trains. And in this space, this was a kind of a workshop space, So locomotives were adapted or repaired to the Dutch railway system. So I think this is a beautiful image where you see this locomotive suspended on the ceiling. So after so many years, we find this building in 2016 like this. So it was no more sign of locomotive. It was just empty. I think that the municipality was a moment that the municipality was thinking to use this space as a parking space because it was next to the train station. So they said, well, we have a lot of cars, they have a problem with cars in the center of Tilburg. So maybe we can introduce here different levels. I thought it was one of the project was to have 5 levels inside of the building only for parking. And then became the crisis, and with the crisis, now people start change minds, and then they say, well, maybe we can use this building with a different destination. So um, uh, at the moment in this building there are 3 organizations, 3 big organizations. One, the biggest one is the library of Brabant, which is the local library. And then we have another organization, which is Sit2Meet. It's a kind of a co-working space. And then there's something about the art organization. So they organize events. Also, they invite artists to provide piece of art for public space or schools. Uh, our starting point, inspiration was the vision of the library. So it's in Dutch. I will try to translate a bit. So the vision was that they say the library it's about the knowledge and stories, and around the knowledge and stories we have a workplace, we have a podium where people can perform on, and we have a collection where you need to information in order to grow. And they said we want, with this philosophy, we want to be in first place for 2 groups. One is people that they need help, they need to be assist. So they go to the library because they sometimes they don't know how to do things or to learn. And then for another group, they want to stimulate. So they believe that there is a group that when they go to the library, they can be inspired and then can be stimulated in doing other new things. So introduce new ideas. So from this philosophy, we start our design. So this is more an interior design. And I think it was one of the questions in the beginning. Uh, can you work better with engineering or architects? And I think this is one of the projects that we work with so many architects, because it was the architect that they won the competition to do the main design of the architecture, and then they invite us to do the interior of this building. So in that case, we had to share our knowledge, our value, and sometimes was not always simple. So you have to understand each other, what is important for the one that designed the architecture and what was important for us as interior. And these are some of the elements that we find in the building. So like these large columns. We found this is a pit. There were this also cavity in the floor. Some rails were there in the floor. So we thought maybe we had to start from these elements. So our approach was based on 2 principles. One, try to integrate and use some existing element and give a second life. The other approach was introducing new elements. So the first one was this, for example, we find the rails on the floor and we said, what if you used it rails? And so then we went to the Dutch railways and we bought the wheels from the train, and then on these wheels we built the tables. And in the beginning, we thought, well, I think this will be very heavy to move. But to be honest, this is very easy. So there's a system in the wheels of the trains that I discovered that one person can easily move these tables. And in total, there are 3 tables. So it depends of the events. So they can move these tables from left to right, and then they can use also as a podium. So it's a reference point. It's a meeting point in the building. But at the same time, yeah, it's also a link with the heritage, with the past of the use of the building. So this is first of all a moment that I think it was during the opening. They organized this performance, and you see people sitting on these large stairs, which was here. So it's and then you see that there are these huge curtains. These are designed by Inside Outside. It's a Dutch office company. And these curtains can move around. So you can create with the curtains different configuration. So the columns, we thought, well, what if we use these columns and maybe we can provide some tables against the columns where people can sit there, and maybe, you know, because you sit there, you start to experience all the beautiful details of this column. So maybe you can also learn from the columns. And then this was the kind of a grease pit. We said, can imagine maybe because we found like this, of course you can see where you can close, you can make an horizontal floor and that's it. But we came with the idea to have stairs that go down. We create a kind of a workspace. At the same time, this space can be used for performance. So it can also be a presentation or an events. And then on the top, we build a mezzanine with additional work areas. So it's now a kind of iconic object. When you enter in the office area of this building, then you see this as a reference point in the building. The City Cafe, it's a new element. It's designed like a kiosk with on the top this iconic text, which represents the name of the library, local, which is a combination of the locomotive and hull. And it is the place where most of people come together and they meet each other. So we designed the ground floor in a way that it's more open, accessible. It's part of the city. We say always that this is like a plane of a square, of a piazza, a covered piazza. Also, the climate is not very warm here. But you know, you're covered in this space, and this is more active. And then when you go more up, it becomes more specific, more quiet. So on the top, it's more, you can find more books. And this is a view from the top down. So you see the diversity of the space. You see these beautiful curtains that define the areas. So when you close this, it's become a large room where you can give a lecture. And when you open, you know, you have just one big view from top down. The children area, every time that I design children's libraries, it's always a story, because depend where you do this. It's all about the culture. I know in UK, people tend to protect the children and to have the children area more in an enclosed area or more protect. If I look in the Netherlands, often they ask us to show the activity of the children, put more in along the windows, so that people can be attracted from what they are doing, and then they go inside. So it's always different where you design this. And in this case, we had great collaboration with an organization that's called Efteling. I don't know if you know this in the Netherlands. It's a kind of a pret park. It's close to this city. It's very famous in that area. And we contact Efteling, and together with Efteling, we came with this idea. Why we contact Efteling is because they are specialized in stimulating the fantasy of the children. So we said, well, we don't want to end up to design just a bookshelving with different colors, but we want to create something for the children so that children can learn and can be stimulated. So then we designed this, it's a shelving in the shape of books. So it's kind of large books where the children can walk inside. So you can imagine it. So the children, they play, they walk inside and they take the books and they can read the books there. And this is our in the shape of an pencil. I think this is the result. And to be honest, what I like is that when they open this space, the children, they start to run around to play with the different books. So it was in a way stimulating their movement. So um, some other photos. And this is, for example, they ask us to create a space where you can sit on the top and tell a story. And say, well, what if you have a book that you can open with pages? And I thought what I like is that the children, they start to go under the pages. So they like to cover themselves with pages, with stories. Well, this is some informal space that can be used for events. And you see, and this is a moment of give a lecture. And this is a room with where you can present a book or have a workshop with a central layout. And to give you an example of how you can stay in the middle. And I think for us was important that the layout start also to react with the communication of the people. No? Sitting in a circular layout is different by sitting just in a row, linear row. And this is a book, it's called The Word Lab. And it's a place where the people learn to write books or a poem. And the client was asked us to create a room where the books is central, where you can be inspired from the books. So we decided to put the books also in the ceiling. So it's when you enter in this room. So you can imagine it's a large hall, and then you enter this small room full with books, like a small library in the library, and then with a different configuration. But this is a moment where they have a workshop. The game room also an own design, special, and then this is the digital lab where it's all about 3D printing, the green screen, and then this large screen where they show the latest technology. Small video. Good. So I hope you're still there. I don't see you, but I'm assuming that you are there. Okay, 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 good. So I will continue with another one. This is in Manchester. Um, I don't have the photos, the recent photos, because it's almost complete. The outside build, the outside of the building, and the interior is still not. So they're still working for the interior. So this is the Manchester University, so the engineering building. It's one of the large investment in the university sector in UK. It's an yeah, a 6-year project. I think now we are now in 2021, which is almost finished. It hosts 4 large engineering school. So it was quite complex to understand the brief and also to create space for all these different schools. And so we are talking about over 1,300 staff members that will walk through this building and 6,700 students. So, and the total, the square meters, it's about 78,000 square meters. So it's quite a large, complex, large building. So I also work on this project from beginning. And what was here the problem of the question is that the situation, the current situation in Manchester was that all these schools were separated from each other on different buildings, and all these activities in yellows, what you see here, were also a bit hidden, were not visible, and the client came to us with a question: please make sure in your design that all these workshops area, labs, all these spaces where you see equipment, you see how people build things can be visible, because that's the place where people get inspired. And especially in first years, people, they don't know exactly what they want to do. They start with some school, then they switch from one to the other because they have friends there, because they see things there, and then and that was one of the main question that came from the client. So our approach was this: some of the initial sketch, as a very conceptual sketch. We thought, okay, this is your current situation. What if we create one building, big of large building that um, host all these activities together, and then around we can create serial buildings that support the main space. And then this main building, so this is just a fragment of the context of Manchester campus university. So we create this long building, which is almost 200 meters, that connect the south with north. I don't know if if you are familiar with Manchester, but here there is Piccadilly station. So people that go to university, they walk every day from this axe that connect the south with north and with Piccadilly station. So that there was also to create a building as a showcase, that also people that they are students from other schools that can pass by and also get inspired by this one. So this is one of the iconic building in Manchester. It's a high-rise building, and we said, well, you can create an iconic building by go high, like a tower, but you can also create building by go horizontal. So, like this is a reference of the cathedral in Florence, where you have all small house around, and then yes, this is the church. It's the one that represent. It's an iconic building, so you cannot miss. And the same with the same thought, we said, well, it should be like this. And why horizontal and not vertical is because in schools it's important to meet and to see other people. And you can meet people and see people when the building is horizontal and not when you do vertical, because then you limit the space in the floor area. So it's about 200-meter long and 45-meter large. So this is the whole complex. So we divide the 78,000 square meter in different buildings. This is the main one, which we call the Mech Hall. And then we have a new building here, this one. So in blue are new buildings, and then in orange are the existing, which will be part of the renovation. So this is a view from the top, where you see an entrance from the south. This is the main entrance, and then this is the main building, and there is another entrance on the north. And this is again a conceptual sketch that we did at the beginning, and this was also the starting point of all the discussion with the client. So with the yellow zone, represent, so it's a section. So the yellow zone represents all the activities, so workshop space, labs, lecture theater. So it's the space where most of the students, they will work around. And then underground, we put some labs. This is labs related with some sensible movements of vibration. Was very important to have this on a solid zone without trillings of the floor. And also because these are also very heavy. You have to imagine that the from floor to floor is 6 meter. And from the 6 meter, there are 3 meter only used for service. So all the service above in the ceiling, it's built to allow this space that can be operated in an appropriate way. So again, section. So we thought let's put this space on the ground of street level, and this become more for undergraduate people. And then above we create with the blue one, cyan, the postgraduate. So above this space, you can find office for postgraduate people. There's staff, professors, and then there are labs in the middle where they make a lot of research and they test in these labs. So what will happen is that all these staff researcher, they will always during the day walk around these yellow zones. One of the big questions was also try to move from the traditional way to teach to a new way to teach. And I remember it was a big challenge. And so what we did is say, well, because it was some resistance from the academic world, you cannot change things from one day to another day. So he said, okay, let's propose a system where you can still teach in traditional way if you want, but we provide a space where in the future you could also experiment. You can also try to mix the different groups of different layouts. So this is just an example how this can happen. And this is another example where we said, well, what if you move the traditional lecture room in the middle of a workshop space, and then maybe it's suspended as a mezzanine level, or maybe it's on the same level, but then if it's suspended, you can look from the mezzanine level down, and you can be spied from all what's happening around. Or maybe you can open the door, and then you are, you extend your lecture room in a workshop space. And this is some of the space that happen. So this is a teaching lab, and this is a blended lecture room, and in between there is a movable wall. So they can use these two spaces separately, but by moving the wall, this become one. And then you start to mix the disciplines, and you start also to learn and to be inspired from what's happened here and what's happened there. Another situation was, this is a workshop area. So above here, there are computer clusters. We decided also to move the staircase that go up and down into the workshop area. So what you will see when you go up and down is that there is one of the landing that stop in the middle of this workshop space. So it doesn't matter if you don't belong in this workshop area, of, you know, maybe you are just go there because you have a lecture on the above levels, but you will always see these activities. And then this is another lecture room, Blend Lecture Theater. It's next to the cafe area. And we decided to open this wall. So this is an example. So you can imagine this is closed, and so it can be used as a cafe area. But maybe during the lunch time, of break time, you can also give a lecture, and it changed completely the way how you can learn by just open the walls. And this is from inside to outside, which it's open to the street level. So you show also your activities to the outside. So as I say, it's an engineering building. So you have to imagine it's full of equipment, full of service pipes, um, structure. So it's this is an image came from Arup. Arup was the engineering of this complex, and the big worry of the client was how can make sure that between all this kind of infrastructure, you can find your place, because it's too long, too big, too many floors, and too complex. And so then we come with an idea to introduce 4 cores. So we have an internal street, we call, that's just an internal corridor, but it's 80-meter wide. So people can walk along this space, and then we introduce these 4 cores with 4 atrias, and each of these core it has an own material, which create a contrast with this space and the space and the stairs that go up. And this is again a sketch that we did in the beginning. As I can imagine, this is a journey that we didn't put the stairs in this corridor, but we put next to the corridor, so on the edge of the corridor, so that you can go up, then you look down to the workshop space, then you go up and again look down to the one of the lecture room, and so you look again outside. And so it's a journey that it starts from the ground floor and then go through the building on 4 different points where you experience all the activity along the building. And this is from this corridor of internal street. So there's this structure based on 10.8 by 10.8. So it's quite a big grid. And then in between, you have the stairs that go up, and then different area along this internal street. This is again one of this is on the upper levels. So you have a lecture room or just a classroom on one side, and then it's an informal study space on the other side. And this is one of the atria where by go up, you still experience the different labs that facing this space. And this is one of this area. The event space. The event space is a space that we design almost in the center of the building. And maybe I'll tell you a story about this. This was not in the brief. And why we designed this event space is, well, on one side, we start to ask the client, do you need an event space? And because actually it's a place where you can meet people, you can organize activities and events. It's a showcase. And on the other side, it's during the design, we discovered that below this area, we found a sewer. And the sewer was a Victorian sewer with a diameter of 3.5 meter, so it was big. And the municipality of Manchester said, well, actually, you are not allowed to build on this area. So, so that was a moment that, you have to decide what to do, because or you divide the building in two, so then you have two different buildings, or you come with a solution that try to solve the problem. So our solution was to introduce the event space exactly on this area. And there is enough space that in case happens something below on the ground, they can remove the stairs and they can go down without to destroy part of the building. So this was one of the conditions. You can build on the top, but you have to reserve space where the people from the municipality, they are allowed them to do some work. So from a problem, actually, we said it came an opportunity. And this is now the space where they will use for an exhibition area or for a lecture or even to celebrate um, the moment, when you finish your study. So I will go to the end. So this is the last project that I want to share to you. And so the first two are more related with the libraries and educational sector. And you see also the changes that we every time we try to introduce and to improve also in this sector. This is more about the mobility. So I decided to put this project in because it's something that, from my point of view, is something that people need to understand how important is the public transportation, and also how can improve the mobility in our cities in order to take more public transportation and not to use always the car. So Dutch people are very proud that they use a lot bikes, and but I think what's work also very well is the public transportation. When I have to take a train, usually I don't look the time because I know that every 5-10 minutes there is a train everywhere in the Netherlands. And this helped me a lot to, to take that train instead of to take a car. This in the city where we have the office, so it's in Delft, and it's actually the railway station of Delft, but at the same time it's also the city hall of Delft. And our goal was to design a place, a train station with a distinctive arrival experience. So, what you see often is that when you arrive in a train station, it looks almost the same like another train station that is built somewhere else. So are very functional, and there is no identity. It's just to move from one place to another place. We said we want to build a train station that people will remember. So when you are in Delft, you will remember this place because it's the arriving point and you will experience it different from others. So this was Delft, I think in 2000. And so it was this bridge, railways bridge that cutting the city in two sides. And then the municipality of Delft, they invite Joan Busquet to do a master plan. And in the new master plan of Delft, they provide, they decide to put the railways on the ground. So we won the competition, and our big challenge was how to design not just railways, but the municipality of Delft, they decide to also move on the top of the train station. And as you know, the two organizations, the two institutions are two distinctive also identity. And the question was also how to make sure that, you know, you are enter in the train station or you are enter in the municipality because it's on the top, and the train station, it's underground. So it was a kind of, I say, dilemma, looking for what is important. It's important to show more the municipality, or it is important to show more the train station. So we explore some existing situation. I think this is a beautiful example. This is in Moscow. It's the subway where the ceiling, it's kind of from the decoration and the colors and the shape, looks like, you know, you are enter in a palazzo, you know, in a whole building, which represent the culture, which represent also the richness of the country, of the culture. So, and then, you know, it came in our mind, what if, you know, we start to play with the ceiling, because the ceiling is the first things that you will see when you approach with a train, and you enter and you will go up to the to the to the ground floor, to the street level. So that was one aspect. The second one was also that, you know, Delft, it's famous because of the painter Vermeer, Johannes Vermeer, and also famous for the university campus. So it's a technical university. So you said, can we combine these two things, or innovation and also the historical aspect of the city? So first we start to understand the logistic, because it was very complex. So on one side, people come from the center, from the campus, the tram, the bus, also we have to provide a parking for the um, bikes. And then we start to design a kind of platform. So it's an area completely open, transparent, with at the top beautiful ceiling, and then on top of the ceiling, the volume which is dedicated to the city hall. One of our first idea was to create a beautiful ceiling, which is the no the things that you see when you arrive, with this typical tiles, which is come also from Delft blue. Maybe you know this. And we say, well, what if we put the tiles on the ceiling, you know, that represent also Delft? But from technical um, uh, problem issue, we decided to move from the tiles to another system, because with the tiles, when the train come to when they arrive in the tunnel, there is also pressure with the air, and so the air start to push to the ceiling. So engineering, they said, well, it can be tricky to have tiles there, because from a movement they can maybe detach from the ceiling and come down. So then we move from this idea to have the tiles, and then we start to introduce kind of strip, aluminium strip, which they work also for acoustic, so perforated. And at the same time, it's also easy to use surface on the top. So you don't see in the ceiling, but everything is on the top. So it's easy to remove and to adjust things. And then we also decide to use the color of this Delft blue, which in the reality it's black, but then when you put in the oven, it becomes blue. So it's a chemical process. And then we combine this Delft blue with the historical maps of Delft, which it's a project on the ceiling. So then you see the translation of this is a map, and then we design this map on the different strip, and then from this design it became more dots, and the dots are translated in a big picture. So this is what you see now. So this is beautiful ceiling with nice shapes, soft shapes that you experience when you arrive from the underground. And go quick, and you see very well here. In between there is the light, and then on the top there is there are more servers, but are covered by this strip. Then this is the big stairs that go down. So this is more mezzanine level, is the level where you can storage the bikes. And these are the columns. So the columns are finished with the tiles. We broke the tiles in different pieces and put around the columns, and then we put the light on the floor so that you can see this solid part of the column that represent support the ceiling of the building. And this is the other side. It's so it's on one side is the entrance of the train station, and another side is the entrance of the municipality. So this is a more solid ceiling with the tiles on the columns and some edges. Then this is the office above. We designed the office with different patio in order to get light and natural ventilation. And the patio are inspired by small street Helois city of Delft. So when you are on the top of the building, you have almost the feeling that you are walking on the ground floor on street level, but actually you are on the top of the train station. And the structure is also special. It's everything. It's a steel structure, and so everything is designed like a bridge because the span is too big to cover the rails underneath. So everything was built in structure in a steel. The glass, we decide also to play with a solid part and transparent. So on the south, it's more closed, and on the north, it's more open. And then these solid panels are also designed in a way that they create this relief in the facade. So it's something also a little bit linked with historical windows in Delft. When you walk along the historical building, you see sometimes this kind of relief on the window. So, and this is just give an example to you where you see the south is more hot, so you need to close more, and then the north it's more open. And I think because of this two type of glass, during the day, during the light, and the changing of the light change also the facade of the building. So it creates a nice movement. So I think I'm almost down. This is nice to show to you that so this is the place where you arrive with your bike, you park here, you go out, and you go down, you take the train. It's fantastic because then you have the feeling that you don't lose time. It's everything is very well connected, visible. So actually with the bike there is a ramp, you go down here, and then you park here and then you go in the train station. So I will conclude with a small short video, and then I think that's done. Yes, so that's the end of my story and my experience. I hope that you enjoy. And well, if you have a question of something that maybe it's not clear, maybe we have a moment to talk a little bit. So I will switch my screen, so stop sharing, so I can see you all.
Yes, thank you so much. It
Long
was
story, probably.
a long story, but really, really inspiring. This is for sure, and I hope that there will be some question. Uh, you know, first of
Yeah.
all, the question. Sorry, Irina, just if I may, one question that has been bothering me since I came to Birmingham and Coventry: why circles on Birmingham Library, on the elevation on the facade?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the circle is because for us a circle it's mean continuity. So it's for many reasons. So one is because Birmingham is well, that time was the second city after London. So with a lot of people, groups come from different countries, nationality. And so for us, the circle was a kind of way to put all together. And the second is because it's a library, so it's a it's a place where you learn